Hey all, Satish here. Let's see how we can use the IDE to write some simple codes. So now let's start a project. Now so before that we have to select a microcontroller. So I did some googling and found out that PIC16F877A is a very popular microcontroller. So let's use this. Okay, this is a PIC16F877 is a 40-pin through-hole microcontroller. Let's use this for the basic course. For the next course, let's use a bit more advanced one. This is an 8-bit controller. As and when I start writing the code, I will go into each of them and find out and show you what are the specifications of this microcontroller. Let's quickly start a project. Standalone project. PIC16F877A. Next, the compiler. So let's use a XE8 which we had installed in the previous chapter. Set as main project. Project folder is, so let me create a folder. We'll set this as a main project. So there are two important folders here. One is the header file, which is for .h files, and other one is for source file, that is for the .c files. I'll tell you what are .c and .h files. So once the project has been started, now let's create a new file, and we'll create a C file, and it will be the main file. So this main file is the first file which you have to create. So that will have the main function. So that is like a starting point for your code. So let me, instead of new main, let me name it as main C, finish. So this is the main function. So it will have a function called as a main function. So this is the starting point of your code. So when you hit the compile button, so I'll tell you what is the compile button also. What the process, this IDE or the compiler will come to this file, the main.c, and from here it will start. So first it will, when the process, so this main function is a function which is called when the processor turns on. So this is like a starting point. So now before proceeding, we have to, there is a configuration bits that you have to set up for the processor to start. So I'll explain you the configuration bits. In Microchip, it's in production set configuration bits. So these are the bits which sets up the processor. So the first one is oscillator setup bit. So let's go to the data special features of CPU. So here, and configuration bits. So these are the configuration bits, and the first one is the oscillator setup. So any processor, let it be Microchip or even your smartphone or your desktop, for a processor logic, it needs a clock. So everything is driven by the clock. So without the clock, the processor will not run. So this clock is the engine which starts and keeps the processor running. So you have to set up a clock. So now this PIC has 4 modes. So one is low power crystal. For example, you want the crystal to be some 32.7 kilohertz. So the clock will be running very slowly. So the power consumption also will be low. Higher the clock speed, higher the power consumption, because the MOSFETs internally have to switch at a higher speed, and there will be some MOSFET switching losses. So the lower speed means lower losses, but lower speed means it takes a long time to execute whatever code you have written. So if it is a very low power application which you are looking into, which does not need much processing power, then you can go for low power crystal. And XT is for frequency from 455 Hertz to 4 megahertz, and HS is for 8 megahertz or 16 megahertz crystal. I think this maximum speed is 16 megahertz. So if you see here, they would have told you like what is the maximum speed. So we will set it up to run with a 16 megahertz crystal. So for that I have to select this one as HS. So HS. So external RC means You can set up an RC combination like this, and this RC charging and discharging will set up a clock like how we had talked in the 555 chapter. So we'll go for a HS. Then watchdog timer. So let's keep it. I'll tell you what is watchdog timer. It's a very simple thing, but a lot of people get confused. The next is power up timer enable bit. So let's see what is power up timer. Come here. So basically what it will do is when you give the power, the processor will not start immediately. So it will provide a 76 millisecond delay before the processor starts up. So it has an inbuilt RC oscillator which will provide this delay. So now why this is required is, let me explain. So let's assume this is the voltage and with respect to time. So let's assume here I turned on the processor. This is what you expect. It will come and this is 5 volts. This is how the power supply will behave. But actually this is not what happens. So as soon as you turn on the power supply, let it be an AC to DC adapter or anything. So if you turn it on at this point, the power supply might raise like this. There might be some ringing oscillations and finally come and settle at 5 volts. Now, do you want the processor to work in this area? No, we don't want. So we want some time for the power supply to stabilize. So this is the reason why we will use the power up timer. So power up timer will be used to provide this delay, after which the processor will start working. For this microcontroller, it provides a delay of 72 milliseconds. So let's enable that. So brownout reset is here. So what brownout reset will do here is, if the VDD falls below V brownout voltage for a specified amount of time, if the voltage becomes less than the brownout voltage, for example, if brownout voltage is 4 volts, if the VCC which we have designed for 5 volts falls below 4 volts for more than 1000 microsecond, what it will do here is it will reset the device and hold it in that state. So the processor will not work. If it falls below 4 volts, it is not guaranteed to work. All this device or all the peripheral device is not guaranteed to work properly. So under this situation, do you want the processor to work? So ideally we would not want the processor to work. We would want it to stop and only run once the voltage is in correct levels. Enabling this feature will do that. So what are these voltages? If you search for VBR, you will find what this is. So in the data sheet, electrical characteristics or somewhere, they would have given what are these voltages and these times. See, this voltage is around 4 volts. Enable that also. So next is LVP, that is low voltage programming enable bit. So let's see what that is. So let's search for it. So basically what it means here is, if you want to program the processor when you have connected it to 5 volts, you have to enable this. So there are few more details here which you can read through and understand what exactly it is. For now, because these are basic codes, we will not go into too much detail of it. We will enable it because we want it to program when the supply voltage is 5 volts. So LVP is on. This CPD, that is the data EEPROM memory crowd protection bit. So this PIC has an inbuilt EEPROM. So do you want to keep the content of the EEPROM when you are programming? If you keep it off, it will the EEPROM will be erased when you program. If you keep it on, the EEPROM will maintain its value. Similarly, we have another 2 more. Let's keep it off. Let's not dive deep into it. So as and when once we start coding, we will come back to this. So once you do this, you have to generate it, copy this code and put it in our, after we have included it. So now what will happen when the processor starts, it will set all the configuration bit. So all these registers are there. Let's not get into this right away. When you start the processor, the clock will start in the HS mode. So you have to connect a 16 megahertz crystal as per our configuration. So now our processor is set up to run. Now let's write our first application. So we will write an application to turn on an LED. So the LED has to be connected to a digital output pin. So we have to select a pin which is a digital output. So now let's go to the data sheet and see which are the pins that we have. So if you come down, so this is our processor. So if you see this arrow, if it is in both the direction, it means it can be a digital input or a digital output pin. So for example, this memory clear is an input pin. So almost all the pins here are digital input or output pin. So let's select, let's say port B. Let's use port B. So I'm randomly selecting port B. So it can be any of the ports. Let's make RB0 low and RB1 high and see how to do that. This port pins can be configured in multiple ways. It can be some communication port, a digital input port, or a digital output port. So we have to do the configuration. So now let's see how we can configure. What are the configuration bits available for port B? So if you come here, so you should have digital IO ports. So in that, let's go to port B registers. Let's see how to set up the port. So what they are telling is port B is a 8-bit bidirectional port. The corresponding pin register tris B. Setting tris B is equal to 1 will make the corresponding port B as input. So setting the tris bit will make it as input. Tris B is 1 will make it as input, and tris B 0 will make it as an output. So we want to configure this in these two pins, that is RB0 and RB1 as output pins. So to do that, let's come down and see the register. So now this is the tris B that we talked about. So as we read on the top, making tris B as 1 will make it as an input port, 0 as output port. So now this tris B has 7 bits. So I'm only interested in port 0 and 1. Rest all let's keep it as input. Now let's configure RB0 and RB1 as output. So I'll come here and I'll write TRIS B is equal to, I'll write it in binary 1 2 3 4 5 6 0 0. So basically this is RB0, this is RB1, and this is RB7. So RB0 and 1 I am making it as 0. So tris making it as 0 will make it as output. So it is giving an error here. Okay, what I have done here is, if you come to configuration, I have not included XCH. So it is not able to get this configuration. So once I do that and save it, see that error went away. If you click on this, you can see where it is defined and all this. Let's not get into this now. It is not that you have to set it in binary itself, you can do it in hex also. Let me open the calculator. So I'll go to binary 1 2 3 4 5 6 0 0, that's 8. So you can write as tris B is equal to 0x FC, or you can write it as is equal to, in decimal itself, if you want to write 252. So any one will do, but doing it in binary is easier. Okay, now we have set the port as output, but we have still not controlled whether the output is 1 or low. To control that, let's see what we have to do. Let's go to IO ports, then port B. So here we have done with the tris. So to control the port B, you have to write port B and whichever bit you want directly. Here the reset value is undefined. So if you have made the port pin as output and you have not set any value, by default it can be anything, it can be high or low. So let's make one of this pin high. Let's make RB0 as high and RB1 as low. So while coding, it is a good habit to comment what you have done. So RB0 and RB1 set as input pin and the remaining is output. Now if I want to control the port, the pin status, the output pin status, port B is equal to 0B. All these things will not matter because they are input pins. So these two I can now, all of them have become 0. If I want to make one of this pin high, I can make it here, but this will not help us because indirectly we are setting all the other pins. If you want to specifically set only one pin, that is RB0 of this port. What you have, you can do that. So let us see. Just hold Control and click on this button. So it has taken you to the how this port has been defined in the compiler. So just take this pin. So this is a union and structure, which I will explain you as a when how to write a union or a structure or later class. Now just copy this. Okay, this. Now what I can do is, instead of writing like this, I can write dot, it will code complete. So it will show what are the options, is equal to 1 and 1 is equal to 0. So now you are only setting the bits which you want, setting or clearing the bits which you want. Similarly for tris also we can do that. So Control and click on that. You can see it has gone here. Just copy this and come back here. Dot. So it is tris B is equal to output. So I want it to be output B0 and B1 as output. So let's not use this. So you are only, instead of accessing the full port, you are only accessing one byte of that port. So only RB0 and RB1. Okay, now we have written the code. Now we have made RB0 as output. Similarly, RB1 is also output. Now we have made that RB0 as high and RB1 as low. So now let's come look. Now let's assume that I have burned the code and the processor start. As I told you, it will come first execute this line. So I have made this port as output, this one as output. Then it will come here, make this pin, the status of this pin as high and the status of this pin as low. Now the program, there's something called as program control, which sequentially goes on. So what it will do is, now the program control will keep on incrementing. There's nothing else to do here. It will keep on continuing and the watchdog timer will come and later reset it. We'll talk about watchdog timer later. In all embedded system codes or these kind of codes for a microcontroller, there has to be a while one loop. So in this loop is where you write your main code. Once you have done your all configuration, you can write your code inside this while one loop. So now let's see what happens. It will come here. We set both these pins as output, then enter this while one loop. This while one means is true. So this loop will never exit this loop. Make this pin high, make this RB1 low, come here again. It will keep on doing this. It is not that you have to keep on doing it. You can do it once and leave it. It will stay in that state. The pins will stay in that state. Let's try to simulate this and see in the IDE itself whether it's working or not. Still there is no delay. So what happens is, this clock is running at 16 megahertz. So each instruction will take, this PIC has a clock, divide by 4. So one instruction cycle is 4 clock cycles. So this instruction will take 4 clock cycles. So if your clock is running at let's say let's go to scientific, 1 divided by 16 mega. So this is the time taken for each clock cycle. So this gets divided by 4. This is the amount of time it will take for each instruction. So now let's build and see if there is an error. So they can go to debug and production, build main project. So there is no error and it will show how much program space, data space, EEPROM, everything is being consumed here. So there is no error. If there is an error, it will show you. So let me create an error. So 7 is already there. Let me put something which is not there. For example, 99. Let's build it. So either you can go there and production, build main project. So it will show there is an error. The tris RB, no member named RB99. It is not there. So that is the error. So let's come and make it RB0 and let's build it here. You can build it here itself, build main project. So now there is no error. This MPLAB X has an inbuilt simulator inside the IDE. You can simulate what the code is going to do. To start debugging, what we have to do is you go debug main project. So now you can see this is the debug menu. So let me pause. Now the code is running. Let me pause and let me just put it here. So to create a breakpoint means if I click here, this red one is a breakpoint. So here it is stop. This button is reset. So if I reset, it will come and stop here. Means the code has come and stopped executing here. And this is to start. So now if I do this, the program is here. To go to the next step, I can do step over this. You can see how the code is running each step. Okay, now to view what is a variable name, if you want to check out what are any variable or what its value, for example, I want to see what is twist B0. I can select this, right click and move. There should be a new watch. So this is what I want to do, tris. Okay, you can see it has come here. Now this is, the value is 0. Similarly, if you want, you can see the whole port also. I can just select this and new watch. So you can see the whole port bits itself. So you can expand here and see. See, only RB0 and RB1 are value is 0, rest all is 1. Similarly, you can, let me minimize this. We can go and check out this also. What is the value of this? New watch. Similarly, let me put this also. So these two, both RB0 is 1, RB1 is 0. So now, since the same thing is being written, you cannot make any difference. So let me hold it. So let's make initially both of them 0, then 1, this also 1, and I'll put a breakpoint here, remove this breakpoint and debug main project. This debugging principle is very important. You can get used to it. Later on it will be very useful. See, now here the watch window should be here, simulator. Yeah, variables, it is here. You have to click on this. If it disappears, click on this, you can see it here. So right now both of them are 0. Step over, still 0. Now I made 0. Now both of them are still 0. Now RB0 should become, this should become 1. 1. Again it will go back 0, 0, 1, 1. See, now I'll remove this and just ask it to free run. So you might not, you will not be able to know what is happening, because it's happening very fast. On the hardware, what will happen is you cannot see what is happening at all. So we have to introduce a delay function if you want to see what is happening. So let me introduce a delay function. So initially I will write a very rudimentary form of delay, which is not calculated. So let's write our first function. So let me stop this. So I want to write a function delay. So let me write it here. So void delay. I'm not passing anything. I'm just randomly introducing some delay for int I is equal to 0 to I less than 10 1 to 1000 comma I plus plus. So I'm just asking it to count from 1 to 10,000. Since it is running at 16 megahertz, this will be pretty fast. So what I will do here is I'll write another for loop where I'm counting j from. So what is happening is, this is getting, so for I is equal to 0, it will count from j to 1 to 10,000. I will go to 1 and count from j to 10,000. So this 10,000 is being counted 10,000 times. So that is a substantial amount. I still don't know what is the time. So I have to write here. See, now I can write here delay. I'll call this function here. And if I build this, it should show an error. So let me build the main code. See, the error is, it does not know, this delay is, even though I have written the function here, this does not know there is a function. The code at this point does not know there is a function here. That is because when the compiler compiled it, it started from main. So it started, let's say it started here, it included all XCH, it did all this, came into main. As I told you, the first, it came into main. then it did here, and suddenly you see there is something called as delay which has the compiler has not seen. So there are two ways to avoid this. One, do it before the main. So when the compiler compiles it, it starts here, it knows there is a function called as delay, and then it will compile this section of the code. So now it should not show this error. Let's do this, because it's already seen that there is a delay function. When it came to main, and when you call this function, it knows there is a function here. So let me build it. So I think this is a build. So this is one way to do it. The other way to do here is, let the function be here. You just tell that there is a function like this below or somewhere in the code. So now when it comes here, it knows that there is a delay function written somewhere, so it will introduce here. So this is another way of doing it. Now let's see how this works. Put a breakpoint here. So this should, and I put a breakpoint here, and let's start the simulation. Debug main project. So it came and stopped here. So if I run play, it should finish this delay and come and stop here. And also make sure that these variables are, this is a different variable and this is a different variable. If you put both as same, this will get into an infinite loop. So you have to be careful that you don't get into an infinite loop here. See, still we have done nothing to the watchdog timer. I'll tell you what the watchdog timer is once this starts working. So let me start. So it is not coming down, means in this delay something is happening, that it is going out, the processor is getting restarted. So let me put a breakpoint here. See, it came here. Again it came here and break. It is not able to go past this delay. That is because the watchdog timer is resetting the processor. Now this is a good point where I can tell you what a watchdog timer is. So let's see in the datasheet what a watchdog timer is. It's under special CPU features. If you come down, there is watchdog timer. Watchdog timer is a free running timer with a on chip RC oscillator. So basically what a watchdog timer is, it is a timer. So let's assume it is an 8-bit timer. So it will start at 0 and increase to 255. So the clock is given by an internal RC oscillator. So it starts at 0, it goes 1, 2, and it goes to 255. After 255, what happens is it rolls back to 0. So before rolling back to 0, it will do one thing. It will reset the processor. Reset the microcontroller. It will reset the processor. When the processor turns on, if the watchdog timer is enabled, it will start counting from 0, and if it is an 8-bit timer, it will go on till 255 and it will roll over to 0. So when it shifts to 0, it will reset the processor. That is exactly what is happening here. So now you can go through the characteristics of the RC oscillator and find out what is the time taken for it to reset, like time taken for it to go from 0 to 255. It depends on prescaler and different values are there, but so let's start it. So it has come here. So it has come here. Then it is not coming here because in this delay, what is happening here is, since it is counting for such a long time, the watchdog timer is overflowing. We call it a watchdog timer overflow. When it exceeds its maximum value and becomes 0, it is resetting the processor. So that is the reason instead of coming here, it is going here. See, it will come here. It came here. Instead of coming here, it will restart and come back here. Okay, so now this is what watchdog timer will do. So in your code, what you have to do is, when it is, you have to be clearing the watchdog timer. So let me show you how to do that. Let me write this for loop in this way so that it is easier for you to understand. So here I have to write a clear watchdog timer. I think this is the function for it. Yeah, this is it. So what it will do is, if you control and click on it, it will execute its clear watchdog timer in opcode. It will do a clear watchdog timer. So now this is the code. Okay, now while counting, what it will do here is it will be continuously be clearing the watchdog timer. So let's start now. Let's start the simulation once again. Since the watchdog timer is being cleared very often, it is not exceeding that 255 its maximum value. We will in the later class see how to set it up and what is the time duration and all these things. It has come here. So last time, instead of coming to this point, it was going here. Now let's see what happens. It is taking a long time because we are counting 10,000 times. It is taking a long time. Okay, let's reduce this. This is taking a long time. So let me do 10,000 100 times. Let's start this. Yeah, it has come here. It took certain some amount of time, and if you feel that is also more. So now I'm blindly doing the delay function. We will not use this. We will actually set up a timer to write the delay. So now I'll just count as basically I'm counting till 1 lakh. 10,000 into 10. So it is here. It came here. So let's see the simulated. If I go variables, you can see the variables changing. Now it is 1. I think this is not updating frequently. So let's put a breakpoint and see that. 1 here and 1 here. Let's see the variable. So now both of them are 0. Both of them turned on. Both of them are 0. Both of them turned on. So now I will return a delay function. So now we have understood how the watchdog timer works. Basically it is a counter which starts from 0, counts up and goes to 255, and when at 255 it rolls over and comes back to 0, and during this time what it will do here is it will reset the microcontroller. So now what is the whole point of this one? We simply don't want the watchdog timer to be resetting the microcontroller. So let me explain how and where to use the watchdog timer. So now this is a general format of any code we write. There will be a main function. We will do all the initialization, and there will be one while one infinite loop, and there will be multiple functions like f1, f2, f3. And when this function is called, it will go here, do whatever is executed, whatever is returned here, like how our delay function, then finish that and come out, then go to f2, finish that and come out, then go to f3 and finish that and come out. So now let's assume that these functions are reading some sensor value or communicating with some peripherals. Let's assume in that function 1 it is trying to communicate with your peripheral, and for some reason this function gets stuck here. So it is waiting for some sensor readings or peripheral response which it is not getting. So it will infinitely get stuck at this point. It does not exit f1. So now what happens here is, if the watchdog timer is not there, then it will be stuck in this f1 function forever. Let's assume that we have enabled the watchdog timer. When it is stuck in this f1 function, the watchdog timer will increment to 255 and roll back to 0 and reset the controller. So once the controller reset, it will come back and start from here again. As the name suggests, like it acts like a watchdog. So if the if the execution gets stuck in any function, then this watchdog timer will reset and will reset the microcontroller, and the whole code will restart. But you have to be careful where you are clearing the watchdog timer. Suppose in this case I am not clearing the watchdog timer, so at some point of the time it will reset and restart the code from the beginning. We don't want that to happen. So generally what I do here is I will clear the watchdog timer in the while one loop. So I will clear, do function 1, come out, go into function 2, come out, go to function 3, finish the execution and come out and roll and come to the up, and it will clear the watchdog timer. So this is a normal operation. Let's assume that you know that like our delay function, this function is going to take a lot of time. It is a planned delay, or we know that it is going to take some time. So in this function itself, where you are waiting, you have to clear the watchdog timer. Else what will happen? It will restart here only. So basically we will use the watchdog timer so that the processor will restart in case the program execution gets hung in any one of the functions. Hope you are able to understand that. Now let's quickly simulate it in Proteus and see how this works. New project. Anyway, in Proteus is a demo version. I will not be able to save it. Let me create. No firmware is required. This is a create firmware project when you're writing the firmware in the Proteus itself. We are not going to write the firmware in the Proteus. So next, finish. So let me see if I can place component from library. Let's see if this library is a pick 16F877A. Oh, this seems to be there. So let me use one of these. Okay, and there are few important connections. So let me put an oscillator here to show you in the hardware what you have to do. So we have to put a crystal here. Again, to understand, plus is to rotate. So check out our basic electronics chapter to understand how to use a Proteus. So here, so let's go to here and see what is the circuit. Oscillator configuration. So you have to create a put a circuit like this. So we generally will not use this RS. We will just use crystal and 2 capacitors, and this capacitor values is also mentioned in the HS. So I think this works at 20 megahertz. So let's use a 20 megahertz crystal itself, and we'll connect a 15 to 33 picofarad. Let's use a 22 picofarad capacitor. So I'll use 22 picofarad. Then I have to terminal, ground. Clock out. So now we have completed this circuit. So our crystal is run. The next one to do here is this memory clear has to be held high. Let's put a 5 volt supply or terminal. Since the VCC of this is not visible, we can just put a, if VCC was visible, we should have connected a DC source of 5 volts and connected it to it. Internally I think they have given the power, so I will just use so let me use terminal, power terminal. This power terminal, so memory clear, there is a circuit. Let me see in the data sheet if you can, they have given as a circuit MCLR. So generally it will have you can give it from a simple circuit like this, R1 and R2. So this is the recommended circuit. We'll just use this. This also will kind of give us a startup delay which we talked about in the power up timer section. So this is a analog startup delay this will provide. So let's use that. So let me use a resistor. So values are given there, what values of resistors you have to use. Then let me connect a capacitor. Again, use our basic electronic course to find out how to use the Proteus. Terminal, ground. I'll use a 0.1 microfarad capacitor. If the simulation is running, you cannot edit the component values. And to this port 0 and 1, let me connect LEDs. So let's select animated LEDs. Let me make it bigger. Place resistors. In all these designs we have talked about all these resistor values in our basic electronics chapters. And also the LEDs, few of the microcontrollers cannot give a high. For example, if this pin goes high, this LED turns on. If this pin goes low, this LED turns off. So few of the microcontrollers cannot give high, they can only give low. So in that case, you have to connect. I'll show you how to do that connection after this, or one of them I will make it like that. Let's start the simulation. So before that, I have to tell where is my hex code. So if you come here, 16 or 16 megahertz. So let's go to 16 megahertz only. So this crystal is also frequency. Let's put it to 16 megahertz. I'm not sure which frequency this takes, whether it is this or this. Okay, now yeah, the hex code program file. I have to specify where is my program file. For that, we need a hex file. So here, when I give build, debug production build solution, there are some couple of warnings here. Let's get into this empty body. So it's telling it has empty body. Oh, one more thing, I have to remove this also, or else what happens, it will never get into this. Okay, so when I gave build, it has created a hex file. I have to figure out where it has created a hex file. Production dot big path is there. Let me just copy this and remove, go to this folder. So there is a hex code here. So this is the hex code. So let me copy this, come to Proteus, paste it here, and the hex code. Okay, so let's start the simulation and see what happens. Fatal simulation error encountered. Let's see what it is. Failed to authorize, missing or invalid custom key. Let me see what that is. Let me figure it out. I figured out what the issue was. The issue was that the Proteus in the demo mode does not allow PIC16 of 877A. So, but it allows PIC16 of 84A. So let's change our project to PIC16 of 84A. So you can go here, properties, device, PIC16 of 84A. Yeah. Compiler XC apply. Let's change it to this. So let me quickly download the data sheet of that one. So this is the processor. So hopefully this also has port B. So it should be fine. So let's go to our code. Maybe just build clean and build the main project. Let's do that. Sometimes what happens is building. So there is a difference between build main project and clean and build main project. Build main project, what it will do is whatever the files that were edited, it will only build that. So sometimes it might not work properly in case you have changed the configuration like this. So to be safer, with clean and build main project, it will delete all the output files and rebuild the whole project from the scratch. Let's do that. It has some error. So what could be the reason is the configuration bits. So let's see the configuration bits for this. So the old one had a lot of configuration bits. This does not have so many. So here it has only frequency. Let's use external HS, watchdog timer enable, power up timer. Let's turn it on, and code protection bit, let's keep it off. So this is the configuration. Let's copy this. So now let's build once. It's telling warning. Let me make void. So while building, you should make sure that there are no errors actually, or warnings also. Yeah, now that warning is gone. Basically, I have to make it void because I'm not passing anything into the function. So I have to make it as void. So let's quickly simulate it here and see whether it is working here once. Let's see this. Let me start. It has come here. Yeah, it is working. So let us try it in Proteus. So I have taken this processor. So let's select a 16 megahertz crystal. Same. I'm not sure which crystal it uses. We will check it out. And the code. Now let's start the simulation. Yeah, it seems to be working now. So let's also figure out like which crystal it is taking up. So let me change the speed here to 1 or 10 megahertz. It should visibly get at about 8 megahertz. It should become half the speed. Yeah. So it is taking up the crystal speed which we have put here. So let me put it back to 16 or 20. Yeah, 20 has become slightly faster. And there is one more thing which I was telling you, that some of the microcontrollers might not have an option to source the current. Basically what that means here is, let's take this port RB0 as an example. In few of the microcontrollers, it cannot source, means it will not go high, or the current which it goes high is lower. It might be like only 1 or 2 milliamps, and the sinking current will be large, means it can sink 25 milliamps and only source 5 milliamps. Let's see, in that case what we have to do here is delete this. I'll delete this. So I have to put a I have to delete this. I have to rotate this. Power. So now what will happen is, when this RB0 becomes low, this LED will start to glow. See, hope you are able to follow that. But there will be a logic difference. When in this case RB1, when it goes high, the LED has turned on. Here when it goes low, the LED turns on. Okay, now that's with the simulation. Now let's get back to the code. So now we have got this to work, but we generally don't write code like this, like delay functions or any other functions into the main code, simply because what will happen is, let's assume you have a bigger code with lot of functions. So writing everything into main will become an issue. For that, what we will do here is, we will create a header file and source file for delay routines or delay functions, or any particular, you can group it based on the functionality and create different files. So let me first create a header file. New header file. I'll name it delay. Extension is there, delay.h. It has come here, and I'll create a file called as delay.c. I'll tell you what these files are used for. Source file delay.c. So basically .h files will have the function prototype. Now this is a function prototype. So this will be there in delay.h. Delay.h will have all the function prototypes, and delay.c or any .c file will have the code, the actual function. And here see, now what happened, you have written a function here, and here you have to call include delay.h. So let's simply create a variable also here. So what I can do here is let me create an int variable delay counter. So when you do here, you have to tell extern. So you're telling the compiler all these things, that there is a function called as delay and a variable called as delay counter somewhere in the code. So here you use the function, here you can use in the .c, you don't have to write the extern. You can write here. Suppose you want to assign an initial value to the variable, it cannot be done in delay.h because you're only just specifying that there is a variable somewhere in your code. So it is where you can assign a value is equal to 1. Let me assign it to 0. Now this function, it is showing an error because basically when the compiler sees all files differently. It does not group together any file until you ask it to group together. So as far as the compiler is concerned, it does in this file it does not know where this clear watchdog timer is. So what you have to do is clear watchdog timer is in xc dot. See, you can put it, if you put it here, see, it knows now, it has become blue. It knows that okay, xc.c, it can see this clear watchdog timer in xc.c. That is why it is not giving an error. So now let's see how to use the delay.c or delay function here. So basically what it does is, as soon as the compiler comes to compile your code into this folder, it will start calling all the include files here. So once you do here include, we have to write delay.h. So once you do include delay.h, when it starts here, it will go to delay.h and see what are the functions that are available. So once the function is available, it will know that which are the functions which are available in delay. So you can directly use that function here. If you don't write this delay.h here, and if you build it, I'll do a clean and build. See, it does not know that there is a function delay. See, the compiler does not, it goes page by page. So even though you have put it in the same project here, the compiler will not group it. So it cannot see delay dot. See, that is the error it gave. So once you include delay.h and clean and rebuild, that error will go away, because now when the compiler starts, it will go to delay.h and make a note of all the functions and variable that is there. So when it starts compiling here, it knows that there is a delay dot function. Okay, hope you are able to understand how what this .h and .c will do. .h will have only the prototypes of the function. It will not have any content inside the function. It will have a prototype of variables and declaration. That is for the compiler to identify which are the functions that are available, so that when it actually goes and compiles the code, it knows where the function is. Else it will not point, it will not know where, if at all there is a function, and where that function is. Okay, now for example, let's create another delay called delay small. Okay, let me write it here. Now this is delay, let me give a small. Let's just count only till, for example, 3. But now I have to copy this, I have to do it in delay.h. I have to give out a delay small, and in the main, before coming to main, what I can do here is I'll just toggle these bits. So I'll call delay dot small here. So now let me build it. So initially it will blink twice, go high low twice, and then okay, this has to be, then it will get into this loop and do it in a lower pace. So let me build it. So I think this should pick it up. So initially it did it fast and then it went to a slow mode. So that is how we write whenever you want to create a function, we do this. See, and there is one more thing that we generally do here is any of the pins that are here, we never declare it like this, because in the code after you write, you will not know what is connected to this pin. So we have to give a name to this pin. So what we do is we will create a .h file and give names to all the pins before using them, because like this, if you use after some days, if you come, okay, what is port RB0, you will not know. So we'll give a generic name to all these pins. So for this, let's create a header file called as IO map. So naming also I will keep it in such a way that it is relatable. iomap.h and iomap.c. Yeah, here in .c I will call include iomap.h. In iomap.h, what I will do is I will define all the pins. Hash define. So before that, let's see. Let's say red LED connected to RB0 and blue connected to RB1. So there are two things which I'll define. So if you see, go to main.c. One is the tris bits. So just make a copy of this. Direction of red, direction LED red. So this is the direction of LED red, and this is the other one is direction of LED blue is RB1. So here I will make another hash define. So hash define, basically what you are giving is, instead of using their built-in name, you are giving your own name which you are able to identify. Define direction, output is 0 and input is 1. So now what I'll do here is in IO map. So let me do it in a function also. So I'll write a function called LED red is equal to direction output red and blue. Let me close this. So in IO map also what will happen, it will not know what is this. So we have to, this it doesn't know where it is, because when it compiles this file, it doesn't know the header or anything. So basically you have to put it this xc.c here once. Okay, now it will know where is it. And if you see here, no, there is something called if not defined define. Basically this dot h will be compiled only once. So what it will do is, first let's assume you came here and now we have to include iomap.h. So when it tries to include iomap.h, it will come iomap.h. It will see whether this has been defined. This is happening in the compiler, okay, not in the microcontroller when the code is running. This is all basically, these are all when it is compiling. Once compiled, you'll get all the hex codes. So whatever syntaxes we are writing is for the IDE to understand. It will come here, we will see whether this has been defined, iomap.h. It has not been defined because it's the first time it is happening. So it will define, and there is an end if for this one. So basically what it means is, first time this main calls, from here this call is made, first time it will not define, so it will do everything. So next time, for example, in from delay.c, if I include iomap, it will again call this iomap, but since it has already been defined from the main, it will not go through this code again. It will not allocate memory or anything for these. So the this statement is required, or else what will happen is, when it compiles, it will make multiple copies. It will assume that there are a lot of functions. So this is required. Nowadays IDEs are writing by itself, so you don't have to worry about it. So initially we had to write this if not defined and all everything. But nowadays, since IDE is writing that, we don't have to worry about it. So okay, now let's go to iomapd. So now you have done this. So instead of doing this, now what I will do here is, I will call this function from, since I have included iomap here, I should be able to call this in my main code. So let's build and see if there is any error. Remove all the breakpoints. There is an error. Implicit declaration of iomap. It is not able to find this, because in iomap.c I have written this function. Maybe I have not prototyped in iomap.h. So it has not been, function definition I have not put it here. So generally we will do it after all the hash defines. So once I do this, so basically what happened was, it went here, it did iomap.h, but in iomap.h I had not written this. So the compiler doesn't know that there is a function. So when it came to this point, it did not see a function, so it gave up a error here. Now since I have given the iomap the definition here, it should not throw up any error. Let me build it once again. See, that error went away. So now for the output pins, iomap.h. So now hash define LED red. So let me, it's not that you have to name it like that. So status LED red will be, you go to main, so this one was red, main, this is red, and this is blue, and I'll hash define what is LED on is 1 and LED off is 0. So in this case, what happens is, suppose in my application all of them were syncing. If 1 is on for this LED but 0 is on for this LED. For example, in my applications all of them are syncing, like this is also in the reverse direction. Then what will happen is the logic gets reversed. So in the code, all the logic gets reversed. So in the code it might become very confusing. So now I can write, if the logic reverse, I can write on is 0 and off is 1. So now what I'll do here is, so let's not worry about this small delay. Is equal to LED on. Blue is LED on. Off. So now it is easier to relate to your code. You know, okay, status of LED, I am making LED off. So that is why we do this. And initialize in IO map, what we will do here is we will set the initial state. If it is required, you can do. We have initialized the IO map and I will make it off. All the initial state before getting into the code. LED blue is also off. So initialize LED, what I am doing here is I am setting up the LED as output port and making both the LEDs off. Okay, now I am toggling it. So let me build it once and see if there is an error. If you see any warning, don't leave it for later. Clear it out now only. The function delay small is never called. I have never called that delay small. So let's do one thing. In IO map, let's build up a startup sequence in iomap.h. So this MPLab allows, you can declare the variable anywhere you want, like inside a for loop also. Some of the IDs that does not do that. Equal to I less than 10 I plus plus. I'll blink the LED twice. So what I'll do is LED is red, and you can do this way also. Is equal to LED off, LED on, and here I will write delay small. So delay small, delay small. So now this will throw up an error because when the compiler comes here and compiles this does not know where is delay.c. So if you build it, it should show the error that it does not know where this delay small is. So you have to specify where that is. You cannot specify a C file, you have to specify a H file, because before compiling it will go to include in .h and get all the list of variables and functions. Include IO delay.h. So now if I compile, that error went away. So you should have the same reaction. So let me reverse this. Plus is to rotate. So 10 times it should blink fast. Okay, this is not, this LED is not going high. Let me see why. So in one of this, you can just control and click on this, it will go take you there. See, both of them have become blue and red LED. I have made 0, so I have to make it 1. So let me build it. So now if I start the simulation, it will blink fast 10 times, then get in and blink, starts blinking slowly. So now this is how in a structured way you will write the code. Now let's do one thing. Let's configure a couple of pins as input. So we have used 0 and 1 as output. Let's use 2 and RB2 and RB3 as input. Let's write that if RB2 is pressed, RB0 turns on, and if RB3 is pressed, RB1 turns on. So for that, what we'll do is we'll go to iomap.h and let's do direction input key 1 as RB2, input key 2 as RB3. So now in the when we initialize that iomap.c, when we initialize is equal to direction.input 2. Basically what will happen is this tris of B3 will become input, that is 1. That is what we had seen in the data sheet. So now this has become input. Now what we can do is we'll define couple of input key underscore 1 that we can do RB2 RB3 for key 2. So in our iomap.c we have already made it as input. So in our main, instead of doing this, what we will remove this. What we will do is, so we will press so what we will do is so let's connect a switch to RB2 and RB3. So component a resistor. So we have to pull it up. I'll tell you what pull it up is. Let's put a switch. So push button, yeah, let's use this. Terminal, connect a ground here. So this is how generally we use a switch. So let me connect this. So RB2, let me connect it here. So now what happens here is this is called a pull-up resistor. So what that means is it will be pulling this point. That is what we have given to the microcontroller pin to high. So without this switch being pressed, this point will be high because of this resistor, and this is the supply. So you will be getting 5 volts at this point. As soon as you press this switch, what happens is this point will get grounded. So this point will become 0 volt. So switch press is actually 0 and switch released is 1. So hash define switch pressed is 0. So we are defining everything because it will make sense when we write the code. So let me do this one main if switch press key is equal to iomap.h switch is pressed. I will turn on LED red is equal to LED on, else LED is off. Similarly, I will do for two. So let me do blue. Because of all those hash defines, it will interpreting the code is easy. Else, if I write if RB3 is equal to 0, then make RB0 is equal to 1. So that it's a bit confusing. So once you hash define it, it becomes easy to read the code and also write the code. Okay, now let's see how this code works. Let me build it once. Okay, delay was never used. That's okay, we are not using a delay here. Now let me run the code. Before that, this is according to us red LED and blue LED. So let me put a red LED itself as per our naming convention. Animated LED. So let me put a red LED here. I think I have built the code. Let me build it once again. The code has been built. So let me run the code here. So it blinks 10 times because of our initialization loop. Then based on which key I have built, so it is continuously restarting. That is because the watchdog timer, if you remember our watchdog timer, it is resetting the device. So basically what we have to do is we have to clear the watchdog timer in this while one loop. Else what happens is, because earlier there was a delay, and in the delay there was a clear watchdog timer. That is why the watchdog timer was not resetting the processor. Now since there is no delay or delay here, and we are not clearing the watchdog timer, the watchdog timer is resetting the processor. That is why you can see the startup sequence. This is a startup sequence. It blinks 10 times. That's our startup sequence. So let me clear watchdog timer, then it should not reset. Let me run the simulation here. Startup sequence. Now it is holding its value, but there seems to be an error. This pin is always high and this pin is low. This should not have been low. because there is an input pin. So because of this pull-up resistor, this had to be high. Here I think here symbolically this red means high, RB3 is low. So let's see what has happened in our code. So I think some issue with the mapping. Red direction 1 and 2. Let's see what is the direction. RB2, RB3. Direction pin 2 is also done. Key 1, key 2. Key 1, key 2. If you come to main, if input key is 1 is switch is pressed and input key 2 switch is pressed. I think seems to be right. Okay, run the simulation again. So if I press this switch, the red LED is turning on, but the blue LED is always on. For some reason, this is not going. Maybe this. Let me delete this line and see what's happening. Maybe the net has not made a connection here, because this should have ideally been, if I run the simulation, this should have been high. This is not going high. Maybe the net has not made a connection here. Let me stop the simulation, delete it. Yeah, I think so. That is the reason. Make a connection like this, and from here let me connect it to this. Now see, now this dot has formed. That means the net has been connected here. Okay, now both of them are off. When I press this switch, the blue LED turned on, that is RB3. If I press RB2, the red LED should turn on. So now we have configured a port as output, that is RB0 and RB1 as output, and an input, that is RB2 and 3 as inputs. Hope you are able to follow that. So now if you come to the code, see, now we have gone through the data sheet, written everything, like configure this as input and output and all these things we have done it manually. So you can format it like this if you want. It is easier to read. But nowadays what happens is the IDEs have become really good that it can do all these things automatically. Let me show you how this works with Microchip Code Configure. I have to click on this. So it is telling with the library that I have loaded. This device is not supported. We come to this page. Here let's see if our device is supported. Pick 16. Let's see release note. So they should have something as supported devices, supported family. So ours is PIC 16F84. Supported devices PIC 16F84 is not supported. That is why we are not able to generate the code automatically. So I can, so for this processor which we are able to simulate, if you are not able to generate the MCC, I will show it for you in a different controller later on. But it is a good practice to know how to read the datasheet and configure the device, because tomorrow you might go to a different controller where they don't have code configured. So once you understand this, you will know you can write a code for any microcontroller.